Welcome to episode number 80 of the Marine Layer podcast. We'll dive into the newest Shohei Ohtani rumors surrounding the Mariners. Is there going to be an all-out war in the Mariners organization between front office and ownership? And which Mariners position are you okay leaving as is? We'll also take a look around baseball with our MLB Wraparound and close out the show with Speak Your Mind.
Here's your reminder before we start the show that if you're listening to our podcast, make sure to follow, download, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your audio podcasts. Those reviews, the downloads, they do help us out a ton, so take a few extra seconds to do that. Watch on YouTube where the full video podcast is. Like, comment, subscribe over there, and follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling. And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording here on Thursday, December 7th in the evening. And we're going to kick off this episode by going straight to our most trusted source for baseball information. We're going to go to MLB Reddit. All right, Lyle, take it away.
MLB Reddit's got Shohei as an M, as a Mariner. He's coming. Didn't you read the news? As they say in New York, start spreading the news. Except you're going to do it here in Seattle for Shohei. Haven't I always said I loved Reddit for two people that went to journalism school and actually have their degrees from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State? Weren't we taught and haven't we always learned the number one trusted source is Reddit, especially when it pertains to things that go your way?
Wow, you said it better than I ever could have, Lyle. The context behind that, go check out our social channels if you want Lyle's instant reaction to this piece. I think I got the first reaction from it when you found this last night and you texted me. You're like, oh my God, I can't sleep now. I'm like, oh boy. According to Reddit, there was on MLB Reddit, a post here says there was a report out of Japan by a veteran sports columnist. Let's see if I can pronounce his name correctly. I think Sochi Hayashi Sr. I think I got that right. And posted it on Yahoo Japan, saying that a lucrative one-year deal is believed to be estimated to be $65 million for the designated hitter services for 2024 is on the table from the Seattle Mariners. $65 million for one season on the table to Shohei Ohtani. And that's with all of the mystery team rumors floating out there that there's one unnamed team out there in discussion and that the Mariners haven't had their name mentioned once in a leak. They haven't, and none of the front office people have bothered to mention it. And Ryan Divish, Adam Jude, Daniel Kramer want to ask people about Shohei Ohtani. They refuse to talk about it. Like Lyle said, if they're out of the discussion, why wouldn't they just bring it up? They're already out of it. Why does it matter? Well, because potentially, if we put our tinfoil hats on here, there is a one-year, $65 million deal on the table for Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to put the odds of this being real at about 5%. Let's just start there and be clear. 5% that this is a real, truthful report that has that is realistic in this case. However, if this were actually how the Mariners were going to go around offering Shohei Ohtani, I think this would be a smart way to go.
That was like music to my ears listening to you read that. The Mariners, Shohei Ohtani, all connected. I couldn't stop smiling over here. Just like last night when I texted it to you at like 12:30 and then subsequently went to bed at, 2 a.m. because I couldn't fall asleep after thinking about it all. But yes, you're probably right. How much truth is there to this? We don't know. It could be 100%. It could be negative 100%. TJ's probably right that it's probably about a 5% chance that this is actually real and that the Mariners are actually thinking about this. But you got it. The Mariners want to separate themselves. Here's a great idea. They say, hey, Shohei, this is the year you're not going to pitch. We will still pay you, not just like you're a two-way player, but a higher AAV for 1 year than any other team would even touch in 2024 because we still believe in you. We will pay you that money just to DH this year. And what could that result in, right? Well, it could result in the Mariners fall short of expectations even with Shohei, and then he goes somewhere else after the 1 year. But Shohei Ohtani, as we've seen this winter, doesn't seem to love the spotlight. As we've seen his whole career, he doesn't seem to love the spotlight. He doesn't like being the center of attention. He's not some Scott Boras client who's happy to travel around having everything get reported out left and right. He doesn't want any of it talked about. So are we sure he would want to go through something like this again? And I say that because, I mean, I sound contradictory because you're saying, would he go through something like this again, but he's signing a 1-year deal? What I'm getting at with the Mariners is if he signed that 1-year deal, he liked it here in Seattle. They won with him. They made some type of playoff run. It doesn't feel like a Juan Soto thing where it'd be like, yep, I'm going to go to free agency again. Probably not going back to the team I was originally with. And I'm going to do a whole free agency campaign again. No, if Shohei liked it here for the 1 year, it feels like there's a chance the Mariners might keep him and he would be more than happy to stay and he'd sign for longer. So maybe this is how the Mariners do it. As I said to you before we start this recording, TJ, ownership screwing Jerry DiPoto. You've got players screwing Jerry DiPoto. Kyle Seager never stopped trashing his name through all the years. All this flack that he has caught over the last few weeks, last few months, whatever you want to call it. But he's having his Adam Sandler moment here in Uncut Gems, and he says, this is how I win.
You're waiting for that.
I was waiting for that.
You said how it makes sense on Shohei's side, and that does make sense. Let's make sense from the Mariners side. Let's say the Mariners actually do have budget problems. Let's say that the RSN bubble, which has already burst, gets worse and the market significantly tanks and the value of the Mariners' share of Root Sports tanks through the ground and the revenue tanks along with it. Okay. So that paints a pretty dark revenue picture for the future for the Mariners television deal, especially with them being locked into deals with the Blazers and the Kraken in the future. So we take a look at future year budgets. So you know those teams are going to be holding their broadcasting rights through, I think the Blazers have 1 more season, the Kraken have 2 more seasons, if I know that correctly. But the revenue's uncertain beyond that. And I'm talking, when I say beyond that, I'm talking about 2025, 2026, 2027, et cetera, going on. Okay, we don't know what our future budget is because cable is dying and we have tied a big chunk of our finances to cable. However, we do, with a decent amount of certainty, know what our budget is for 2024, and we would feel comfortable with one abnormal amount for 1 season because we have a good guess of what our revenue is next season, not beyond that, but next season, yes. So we're okay upping the average annual value of a contract for more in 1 season for Shohei Ohtani, rather than a lower AAV over more seasons in which we don't know what our future finances are going to look like. So because we know our finances for next season and we have a pretty good idea of that, we're more comfortable with a 1-year deal to Shohei Ohtani. And I think that's the only way this gets done for the Mariners. Thinking about this more and having this Reddit idea come to us, this report, I mean, it really does make sense because it's been known all along the Mariners will not outbid the Dodgers. They'll probably won't outbid the Cubs. They probably won't outbid the Blue Jays. They will not outbid the Giants, and they will definitely not outbid the Los Angeles Angels. So you have to offer something else. Are you going to get him to sign a 3-year deal? Probably not. Probably not in this cycle. He'd probably want something longer because, like you said, he doesn't want to do the circus again. Who knows how healthy he's going to be the next time he hits free agency. But 1 season where he can focus on rehabbing his arm near driveline, where he can put all of his focus into hitting, and he can get paid like the 2-way player he is to only do one of those things. And that's all for the Mariners to say, hey, please give us a shot. We will show you why it is worth it for you to stay here. And we can get a good estimate with the revenue you bring in a single season, what the number we can give you after the 2024 season would be. That sounds pretty good to me, Lyle.
I like the way you're talking right now. Just hearing you talk through this, there's like more and more reasons why I'm starting to think maybe it's higher than 5%. Maybe there's a chance they could actually do this, especially when you mention the driveline thing. You know he wants to have full control over that rehab, and he wants to make sure it's done right. If he could be right near driveline, go there all the time, I bet you that's a big plus. And like you said, He's not locked into being a Mariner forever. So if the Mariners weren't good with him, it's not another Angels situation. Man, that would be interesting. And again, there's going to be people out there that's like, I don't want him on a 1-year deal. I want him on a 10-year deal. Yeah, we all want him on a 10-year deal. But guess what? He might not want you, the Mariners, on a 10-year deal, at least at the moment. So how do you get him here? Just get him here and figure it out from there. Because guess what? At the very least, 1 year of Shohei Ohtani, it's better than no years of Shohei Ohtani. And 1 year of Shohei Ohtani, I can't stress this enough, is much different than 1 year of Juan Soto, who we're going to get to later. Juan Soto was hitting free agency. Juan Soto was not signing an extension. Set, stone, sealed, delivered, everything. Juan Soto's hitting free agency. Shohei might too, but Shohei might not be so against the idea of returning. He could technically become a free agent, but say, hey, Jerry, Justin, let's work something out. Pay me fairly, and I will stay here. Just get him here.
You ready to jump deeper down the rabbit hole?
The Shohei rabbit hole?
Yeah, so we know how he said it would, by the end of this weekend, it sounds like he will sign. A guesstimate. Like, by then, you would imagine he will.
So per John Morosi, yes. There's been some other reports saying it could take longer. Who knows? It sounds like yes, but we don't know for sure.
I will just say, the Mariners have announced their team stores will be closed on Saturday due to quote-unquote system maintenance and will reopen on Sunday. Now, wow, what could they be doing with system maintenance? Sure, they could be updating all their computers. They could be cleaning. They could be reorganizing. There's some players not on the Mariners roster that they might need to shuffle out. There also could be some new ones that they need to add in deep secrecy before an announcement comes this weekend. Oh, I don't know.
They getting some 17 jerseys ready? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
They bringing some old Mitch Haniger jerseys back out with those? That's what they're really doing with that maintenance. Resale.
Yeah, resale. They're scraping all of Mitch's hard-earned jerseys off and just the nice Ohtani on the back of it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Dude, I'm buying that jersey in a second. If he signs here, I can't keep a smile off my face this whole segment just thinking about it. I would get that jersey in a heartbeat. Even if it was for 1 year, I don't care. I'm getting it.
Anyways, so if anyone wants to actually go do some reporting for us, Lyle, you can do some reporting for us. You're up there. Why don't you go sit outside on Saturday, outside a team store, look through the windows. Let me know what you see.
See, if there was still a Mariners team store at Bellevue Square Mall, which is not that far from where I live, I would actually do that. I'm enough of a psychopath and currently don't have anything to do on Saturday where I would probably take the 15 minutes to drive over and actually look through the windows and be like, well, can we see anything? The problem is these team stores are now much further away from me. Where are they now? There's Alderwood. There's downtown Seattle. They're far.
It was the Mariners team store at the stadium, and then the one on 4th Avenue,
Stewart Street. Right?
That would have been close. If I was home, I could do it. If this was in 2 weeks, Lyle, I could go do some on the boots reporting because that's not very far from my house. However, I am unfortunately 4 hours away right now, and I cannot do boots on the ground reporting. So that's why we need you, our correspondent in the Seattle metro area, to get your boots on the ground, strap them up, and go do the reporting everyone else needs to. I guarantee you, Lyle, you will not be the only person doing that. I guarantee it.
You know what? If this sounds enticing to anybody listening, add us on Twitter. Say, hey, I'd go. If there's enough people that are interested in this conspiracy theory enough to actually show up at one of the team stores and try to look through the window, I'll show up with some of our fans and listeners and we can all hang out together. See, hey, are they really cooking something up here? This is fun. I'm going to be honest. Maybe it's just because I'm so obsessed with the Shohei to Seattle thing, but this is one of the most fun segments we've done in, forever. And maybe that's because there's been so much negativity the last few weeks. So I'm loving this.
And we all have to come back to thanking the number one source for baseball information for this opening segment, Reddit. Thank you, Reddit. The first time we have used Reddit as sourcing on this podcast, and it checks out, Lyle.
Man, it checks out. All right. I am very interested to see what my emotions are going to be like the next time we record a podcast, because the next time we either record a podcast will be our normal Wednesday episode, or there's a certain emergency episode. We'll see.
I guess we'll see.
All right. Before we get to our next segment, let's hear a quick word from our friends over at Pagotcha's Pub 85. Pagotcha's Pub 85 in Kirkland, our favorite spot to go hang out with our friends, the best spot in town to go eat, drink, and watch some awesome sports. They have 22 TVs in the place. It's a bunch of fun. People are always there during college football Saturdays and NFL Sundays. Even with baseball being done, there's plenty to do. And if you show up during happy hour, they have some pretty good happy hour specials. There's some great happy hour specials. What are they? The happy hours are Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m., and they include $3 domestic beers, $4 Manny's Blue Moons, $4 Mac and Jacks, $4 Wells, $4 house wines. Get all that, hang out with your friends, go watch some games over at Pagotcha's Pub 85 in Kirkland. Well, the news of the week is obviously the quotes out of Nashville and everything going on with the Xfinity, Root Sports, Regional Sports Network news surrounding the Mariners. We talked about it a lot on Wednesday. If you have not gone and listened to that episode, you should. We recommend it. But there's still some more to kind of flesh out here. So after sitting on this for a couple more days and thinking about it, I've started to get more and more nervous. Why is that? Not just because of the revenue potentially going down or ownership not spending, because again, I think they're absolutely capable of spending and are kind of gaslighting fans, or not kind of, they are gaslighting fans by saying what they're saying right now. But are we on a crash course for an all-out war within the Mariners organization? And I'm serious when I'm saying that. An all-out war between the front office and ownership?
If you think about it, you don't normally see some of the comments come out about budgeting. They're very small, they're very slight. But when you hear Scott Service say, these are the cards we've been dealt, or Jerry Dipoto saying, oh, 2 weeks in, stuff changed for us. Not like saying there is an issue without saying it. He is definitely saying an issue. These guys are professionals. They are professional talkers. They know how to do it. I don't know if we're quite at that point, because we have seen what a true mutiny looks like, or at least within an organization. We can talk about the fans all we want, but within the actual organization itself, Jerry Dipoto already did this in his career once. Before he was the Mariners general manager, the reason he resigned in Anaheim is because he had no power in the organization. It was Mike Scioscia and Artie Moreno. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm a fucking idiot. And Artie Moreno essentially controlled the roster moves. And Jerry's like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, I'm a GM, but I have no power to actually make personnel decisions. So he resigned. Jerry now has full power to make personnel decisions in Seattle. The problem is he does not have full reign to do what he wants, I would imagine, judging that the moves he's made early this offseason regarding the budget. And this has not been the first time the Mariners have pulled back the budget on him after initially saying the budget was going to be higher. They did it after the 2020 season. They did it after the 2021 season. And they also did it after the 2022 season. And as I mentioned on Wednesday's episode, all the way back in 2018, they did it to Jerry in 2018. Instead of wanting to add on to a team that was winning games, they said, nope, you got to go within your budget restraints. You cannot go above this number, and that cost the Mariners a playoff spot. Eventually, Jerry's got to be frustrated with what he's doing. He's getting paid handsomely. He is a president of baseball operations of a Major League Baseball franchise. His paychecks look great. He has a great position. He's doing exactly what he wants to do in his life. Is he entirely happy how it's all playing out, though, and the meddling from up top with how the ownership is structuring his budget and restricting what he can do after he pitched them this idea of, let's rebuild. And once I get all this young talent in there, we can finally spend. And then once that moment comes, they're like, yeah, actually, no, we don't feel like spending. And he hates it. So this might just be the first moment of this. I would pay very close attention to Jerry Dipoto's sentence structuring and his appearances on the radio and just his general tone when talking about his budget and his job and his roster and all these other things. Because I really wouldn't put it out of the question of how frustrated he would be as a general manager who can't fully do his job under the restrictions placed by ownership above him.
And his patience is starting to wane. We heard it in the quotes this week. We probably didn't talk about the quotes from him and Scott as much as we should have on Wednesday, but both of them sounded pissed off. We talked about Scott's quote about saying the hand we've been dealt and all that stuff, but the way both of them sounded, they did not sound happy. Jerry did not sound happy. It was the closest I've ever seen either of them to publicly throwing ownership under the bus. And that signals to us that there is really a lack of patience all of a sudden. There's a frustration building up within that front office, within the baseball ops department, within Scott's service and maybe his coaching staff as well, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're holding up their end of the bargain, but there's only so much they can do if they are not granted money to be freed up to make the decisions they want to go and make. They're doing this with one hand tied behind their back. And let's be very clear. Jerry Dipoto is not asking to spend Steve Cohen type of money. I don't even think Jerry Dipoto would choose to spend that type of money. I think he wants to spend. I don't think he feels like it's necessary to spend like Steve Cohen. I think all he is asking this ownership group to do is give me the reins I need. Give me fair reins, like a Major League Baseball team that is competing for a World Series, that makes a lot of money, that's top 10 in attendance. Give me the budget that a team like that with all these young, exciting players is supposed to have. And I will take this over the top. I will get you into the playoffs again. I will get you deep into the postseason and to a World Series and win that thing. But I need help. And he's not getting it. He can't win a title by being given $20 million this offseason in a pivotal offseason to try and change this franchise. That is impossible. Who do you think the best GM in baseball is right now, or best president in baseball? President of baseball.
Andrew Friedman.
Andrew Friedman, Alex Anthopoulos. You want to say Theo Epstein, even though he's not in the role anymore? Those guys couldn't do it with $20 million either. There's people all the time, fire Dipoto, fire Dipoto. I'm sick of it. He's not perfect. But if you think there's somebody else that would come in here and thrive with that payroll, no way. So again, Jerry's not perfect, but like we said on Wednesday, if you've got issues with the Mariners, I'm going to use this phrase again, climb up the ladder and take it up with ownership. That's who the real enemy is. I'm using another pop culture line here again. Hunger Games. Remember who the real enemy is. It is not Jerry. It is not Hollander. It is not Scott Service. It's the ownership.
And where Lyle's getting that $20 million number, Adam Jude wrote a piece in the Seattle Times today. He was talking about the new coaches hired. Tommy Joseph and Brant Brown officially hired this week. And in the article, he speculated. I don't know if this is a hard number. It's hard to ever get an actual estimate. The actual estimate will be what they end up spending this offseason. But Adam Jude said, in quote, "The club now has roughly $20 million to find suitable replacements for its 2024 lineup." I have a news flash. They will not find suitable replacements for $20 million. They will not. You know what they could do? They could make that trade with the Rays for $20 million. The combination of Paredes and Randy costs about $11 million. But that's on the highest optimistic side, the most optimism there. That's it. But outside of that, it is going to be very difficult for Jerry if he only has $20 million, which, by the way, would go against what Jerry said he had available, where he said he envisions the payroll being higher next season than it was in 2023. $20 million would put the payroll at $137 million. And that is definitely not higher than what they had last year in their payroll. So that's where Lyle got that number from. And what I'm referencing with the promise of future spending for Mariners ownership, here's a tweet from Shannon Dreher back in 2018, just following the season. Dipoto, when he was talking about future spending, he was talking about the 2019 season upcoming at this point. He says he still believed that payroll would be in the 140s, even though they sucked. But then after that on future spending, we feel like we'll put ourselves in the position that when the young team is on the field, that the team can use free agents to finish a team rather than build one. The problem is, once we have gotten to this point where the Mariners need free agents to finish the team, the bill has not come. We've seen this before. I mean, we have with crummy ownership. And if not that, we see executives get picked off from franchises. It might not be a mutiny, but guys getting hired from the Rays and hired from the A's to richer organizations to go work somewhere else. The magic sauce that built the roster of the small budget teams of the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays go get shipped off somewhere else. Like Andrew Friedman was a Ray until the Dodgers were like, yeah, we're going to buy you away, essentially. And now Andrew Friedman has unlimited resources to go operate the Dodgers. And he's done a phenomenal job, just like he did in Tampa Bay as well. So there's a lot here, but I mean, no, it's in summary, like, no, wouldn't be surprised if there is tension there. But until there's actually action, we would never know, or unless there is a really deep dive by a reporter who's willing to go above and beyond to dig out some information about all this.
I'm looking at you, Ryan Divish. If anybody's going to do it, it's probably you, or it'd be one of the national people. So maybe they can do it. I will say this, by the way. This is another thing I really wanted to get out there this week. I've just got to go out and say it. Ownership attempting to project what their payroll is going to be in 2024 based off this whole Xfinity thing and the whole regional sports network thing is sad. Because this is not about the money you currently have. You're projecting the money you're going to make based off Xfinity, changing Root Sports and putting it on the premium package rather than the normal one. Can I throw a crazy idea out there? And I'm being totally sarcastic because this is not crazy. What if we get 3 weeks into the season in 2024 and Xfinity says, whoa, nobody wants to move over to the premium package for Root Sports. We upped it to an extra $20 a month. People aren't paying. Now we're losing money. We thought we were going to gain money from this. We thought people would just shift over no matter what. It's not happening. This is bad. And after a few weeks, they decide, you know what? This isn't worth it. We're going back to the basic package. Everybody has access to watch the Mariners again on Root Sports. No premium package. You get it no matter what if you have Xfinity and if you have the basic package. Let's say that takes 3 weeks. Let's even say it takes 1 month. You're not losing that much money off 3 to 4 weeks of not having games on the basic package of Xfinity. So let's say they change it back. Do you know how fucking foolish this ownership group is going to look if that happens? Because then you will have wasted all offseason not spending any money. Shohei, gone. Yamamoto, gone. Blake Snell, gone. Juan Soto, for all we know, he could decide he's going to be a Yankee the rest of his life. He'll probably hit free agency, like we said, he will. But he could decide he'll be a Yankee the rest of his life. All those guys will be gone. So then what happens? You would have wasted all offseason spending money on nobody just to lose minute and marginal money off the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. And if that happens, you think ownership looks bad now? Think about how ridiculous they're going to look if that goes down.
That was impassioned.
Yes,
but
it's been another passionate show. It's 2 in a row. We were passionate on Wednesday, and between Shohei and between all this stuff again, we're passionate again today.
You're right. Okay, so let me jump in here. Let me say a couple things, and I'm gonna push back on what you said a little bit. First of all, Xfinity needs to make money on this too. And I'm like, they ran the numbers on what they assumed they would make moving this up a tier. And I don't think this would be something they would cut or turn back on, 6 months into doing it? That doesn't really seem logical. 6 months in business is not a very long time. That's 2 quarters, 6 months. So after 2 quarters, the losses would have to be astronomical for Xfinity for them to consider moving it back. And remember, this is only one channel. Xfinity deals with hundreds of channels. They are, in fact, a cable company, not just an RSN. They are a cable company. They worry about more than just Root Sports. So, I don't think this would be a decision they would make in just 6 months. That doesn't sound realistic to me. They don't operate just in the interest of the Seattle Mariners. They operate in their own interests to make money. Second, there's, 2 entire sports seasons going on right now, airing on Root Sports that people can't see. Right? And that are on the premium tier that would not be moved down, that the Mariners and Root Sports have invested significant amount of money in. And again, if it's on the premium tier right now, not when opening day comes around, right now, then that revenue's not coming in.
I feel like the Mariners have a bigger draw than the Blazers and Kraken here in Seattle. I mean,
on Root Sports, yes, you're right,
so
but it doesn't matter because they have already paid the Blazers and the Kraken that money for the rights fee. They pay a yearly fee of what, $30 million ish. I think a little bit more for the Trailblazers. Like, that money's already paid, so they have to make money on that. That's the point. They got to make money from commercials now. It doesn't matter what the ratings, yes, are their issue. Like you say, well, the Mariners get a higher draw. Well, yeah, but they're still paying money for the Blazers and the Kraken because they own the network. These have to be good business investments. If they're not good business investments, then we see the shit they're doing right now.
All I'm going to say is, if there was enough pushback on this, where enough people were not switching over to watch the Mariners, like, this is not going to happen, right? But if they were legit getting 100 views a night because nobody wants to switch over their Xfinity package, they would have to do something about it. That's what I'm getting at. Will it happen for sure? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they'll switch it back. I'm not saying everybody's going to boycott. I'm saying if it were to happen, and then if Xfinity actually made the decision to flip it back to the basic package, ownership would look ridiculous, because then they would have wasted all offseason off an idea, which goes back to my original point that I was making Wednesday. I'm saying now is stop letting this whole thing trick you into the idea that ownership can't spend. They have money. They can go spend money.
I think you're banking that people, as soon as they move it back to the basic package, will re-sign up for cable, and I think that is flawed thinking. For this age of consumption, like, it's not happening. So people who care about Root Sports enough to watch, right, and to give ratings to Root Sports, they watch Root Sports when it's on the basic package. Once it gets moved to the elite tier package, they're like, okay, I'm done. Xfinity membership canceled. And Xfinity comes back, is like, oh, by the way, we're putting it back on the basic package. And the person who is already subscribed to, I don't know, Fubo or YouTube TV is like, no, I'm good. No, I don't need to sign back up for cable again for you guys to meddle in channels and all this stuff. No, I'm good. Too expensive. Don't want to worry about it. I like what I have right now. Like, you'd have to buy back. You would have to sell back your own fan base to purchase your product after the product you already have. Like, you'd already be operating at a loss of fans for this subject. Like, I just can't. You can't just assume like the stream of people will immediately come running back to Xfinity and start paying these cable fees again to Root Sports, which again is the root of how they make money on this channel. They pay the $8-10 a month directly to Root Sports to watch the channel. But that's no promise that would happen.
No, it's not. I guess I was thinking about the idea of all these people that already have Xfinity. They hear the option of, hey, are you going to switch to the premium package so you can watch the Mariners? And they'd say, no, I'm going to stick with my basic package. I'm not upgrading to watch the Mariners. And then as a result, if enough people did that, they bring it down. But maybe you're right. Maybe people would just change TV providers, and maybe they go to Fubo, or maybe they go to YouTube TV, and then the Mariners are running into the same problem that we're talking about here. But that's more what I was thinking about is if nobody switches their plan over.
We got to move on here, but like one last point. Like, people don't watch that much on cable anymore. That's why it's going defunct. The main consumption of cable is cable news and cable sports. Pretty much. Like, that's it. If you're not watching cable sports, aka most people who really care about this watch the Mariners, and once the Mariners are gone from their sports package, they're like, well, I can get ESPN Plus for cheaper and watch all my ESPN channels without an issue. I can get YouTube TV and have watch the NFL, the NBA, etc. without any issue. So, and like the cable news people watching, like, I guess, but it just like, it's not, I would say like buying back your fan base is not a guarantee, but you're right. They would kind of look stupid for marginalizing their payroll. They're stupid for marginalizing it even now, because again, we come back to the point. It was their decision to buy at the peak of RSNs and watch it crumble like buying fucking Blockbuster. The Mariners are essentially Blockbuster turning down buying Netflix, or vice versa. Like, essentially, that's what it is. Or if you just want to switch it around, the Mariners are essentially an investor who invested a shit ton of money in Blockbuster in 2008.
There you go. And you know what? Like, again, I can't stress this enough. Even with the TV stuff, they've made money in so much of it other places. So stop tricking people into thinking you don't have money. And nobody knows what regional sports networks are going to look like in a couple of years. This isn't just a Mariners thing. This is a baseball thing. There's a ton of teams affiliated with Bally Sports that have lost their TV deal. This could be a league-wide issue. So if you're the Mariners, stop worrying about the future. Spend to win right now. Figure it out later.
And another reason, one last thing here, why the Blazer deal and Kraken deals are so important. Remember, the Mariners TV revenue is revenue shared. Remember that. Major League Baseball TV money is pooled and split up evenly in the revenue distribution, which, by the way, the Mariners are a revenue recipient per the compensatory draft picks they get for QOs. They are a recipient. So they receive the pooled television money from Major League Baseball. They receive more than they give. But again, that is banking on the fact those other two broadcasts make money, which again, they do not share on Root Sports, which is why that's important and why if they're making less money than they paid for, then it's a bad investment.
I can't believe we're in the middle of the offseason and we're wasting our time talking about the nitty gritty of the business of the sport rather than just, how about you go sign some players? Like we just sorry, I shouldn't say wasted. These were all important things we talked about, but I can't believe the Mariners are making us spend all this time on this podcast, on other radio stations this week across the nation, talking about this bullshit when we could just be talking about what players you could sign. And shout out to Mike Salk, by the way, because he really went on a pretty great tangent on Wednesday over on Seattle Sports. Friend of the pod, Mike Salk. He ripped them, as he should, as everybody else has this week, as we have, as national radio people have, as national TV people have, as players have, as agents have, everybody's ripping this ownership group. So how many more people do they need to hear it from? And I think Mike Salk did a great job really formulating it well.
He's not usually overly critical either. He's usually, I would say, right in the middle and more on the optimistic side. So when I saw most of the tweets say, when you've lost Mike Salk, you've lost everybody, that was pretty accurate. But he said everything that needed to be said. He's a pro for a reason. He did a fantastic job. Okay, so let's get to our final Mariners subject, Lyle. The Mariners have 4 holes they need to fill in the roster. Both corner infields, third base, DH. If you were going to pick one of those positions to not fill, which one would you leave as is?
You mean 2 corner outfield spots, right? I think you said corner infield.
Okay, sorry. 2 corner infield spots, third base.
Outfield.
Third time's a charm. 2 corner outfield spots,
there we go.
Third base, and DH. Lyle, of those 4 positions, which one are you leaving as is?
There we go. And to your credit, to be fair, I mean, you could make an argument for a 5th spot at first base, but it just seems like the point in the offseason we're at doesn't really seem like they're doing anything with Ty France. It appears he will be the team's opening day first baseman from what we've gathered. So, to the 4 positions we're talking about, 2 outfield, third base, DH. There's a couple different ways you could go with this. What I said was left field. And what I mean by that is letting Dom Canzone be the everyday left fielder and figure it out. And why this all ties together is because, again, all the money topics we've been talking about here on this show, it all ties together. Because if the Mariners are really going to have such a limited payroll, they're going to have to use their money wisely. And the likelihood of filling all these 4 positions, sad to say, but it's probably unlikely. So now we're thinking about, all right, which are we most okay leaving alone? I say Dom Canzone, and I say that because I think the upside of Canzone, the potential of Dom Canzone, is what you can buy. If he is the one question mark in your lineup, I'm okay with it. But I think the other 3 spots would be much bigger issues otherwise.
Jerry came out and said they wanted to acquire 1.5 outfielders. And the half was supposed to be essentially a platoon bat with Dom Canzone, which would lead us to multiple platoons, and Lyle and I will riot. But in a realistic case, this actually seems like it's going to happen. And I don't think the Mariners traded for Dom Canzone last season and trading Paul Sewald to the Diamondbacks for him to sit Dom on the bench and have him play twice a week. He was going to play more often than that, and that seems like it's going to be the case this season. There is a lot of optimism with his bat. He hits the ball extremely hard. Lyle, do you know actually who Baseball Savant thinks is the most similar hitter to Dom Canzone in baseball last year? Do you know who that was?
I'm going to say Mitch Haniger.
Bobby Witt Jr.
What? That can't be real.
No, by Statcast, he was. It's like hard hit rate, like launch angle, like good contact percentage, like pop up rate, like all those things. Bobby Witt was the next closest.
Wow.
Look, he was 81. I think it was like 81% similar.
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
I like that comp. Look, the reason we say Canzone and the reason I said Haniger as my guess there is because he gets compared to Mitch Haniger all the time. The idea of kind of forgotten about prospect or lower end prospect, older guy coming up through the system and absolutely crushed baseballs through every level of the minors. And then once they got to the big leagues, despite being a little bit older, they figured it out. And Mitch Haniger, at age 26, his age 26 season, that's when it all clicked. His first full big league season, when he was in Seattle, that's when it all came together. Where's Dom Canzone at right now? He's about to enter his age 26 season. Similar to Mitch at age 25, those two kind of had an up and down 20, 30-ish games in the big leagues in their first stint in the majors. And they figured it out. I can't promise the two are going to be exactly the same, but considering Dom Canzone last year in the minors was maybe the best hitter in all of minor league baseball and put up a 151 WRC plus, I like rolling the dice with him a little bit better than I do with leaving Luis Urias at third or having some combo of Deloach, Trammell, Dylan Moore, and Sam Haggerty fill the right field and DH spots.
There's another thing, because we have precedent on this. Precedent, Lyle. Big courtroom term. You know what precedent is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. There has been precedent sent by one Jerry DiPoto of an in-season acquisition in which he traded his closer to another Western region team and received younger bats back.
Mm.
And in this previous scenario, this other said bat got way too much run on the major league roster, almost stubbornly way too much run on this roster. However, he was forced into the lineup to play a significant amount of time in the 2021 and 2022 seasons. Now, who might I be talking about?
Who might you be talking about? I can't figure it out. Like, did you ever have much investment in this guy?
You know, when the Mariners traded Kendall Graveman, they got back this guy, right? His name, Abraham Toro. Yeah. Back in the AL West with the A's, right? You know, with the A's, by the way? Yeah. Right. That's his perfect team for him. He played too much. And it seemed like Jerry would refuse to say he was wrong in that acquisition. And boy, he was, because he came out and said however many times, man, I love Abe Toro. This dude's going to be good. Or really like his upside, his young talent, everything he's got. He's so versatile. Yada, 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 yada. He sucks. Dom Canzone in 2023. Mariners have a closer. They trade him to the Arizona Diamondbacks and get back an older, yet MLB-ready prospect who Jerry was talking up when they traded for him. Man, we love Dom. His hard hit profile is great. He's going to have a great future as a Mariner. We insist on playing him a bunch. And that's it. And with Jared Kelenic being traded, you have your young left-handed outfielder now, and this is it. And you have a young left-handed outfielder who doesn't strike out a whole lot. 17% strikeout rate for Dom Canzone last year. Mariners want to make more contact. Dom Canzone makes a lot of contact. Fits with the philosophy, fits with the precedent, and the batted ball data would suggest that, don't be surprised if Dom Canzone could put up a 105 to 110 WRC plus next season in the outfield for the Mariners. Not amazing, but he has the tools to be a productive big leaguer.
And I think I would roll the dice that he can do that, if not a little bit better. Again, this is when Mitch Haniger broke out, and we know Canzone can hit. He hit at every level of the minors, and he crushed it. I would trust that more than 162 games of having Dylan Moore and Sam Haggerty and maybe Jose Caballero at the DH spot again. So let's play this out somewhat. Let's say the Mariners with their $20 million trade for Isaac Paredes, trade for Randy Arozarena, and you said that would cost them about $11 million, right?
Yep.
And what if at the DH spot, they went and got Jorge Soler? Again, he'll probably cost a little more than that. Maybe you can backload the contract. Maybe there'll be a little bit more wiggle room. Maybe they can offer him an extra couple million, and instead of it being a $20 million payroll, it was a $22 to $23 million payroll this winter. And you give Jorge Soler the 3-year, $45-ish million contract he's looking for. I'd be okay with that. And then your one hole is Dom Canzone in the outfield, rather than if you go trade for Randy, trade for Paredes, and sign an outfielder, and then you've still got Demo or Sam Haggerty or somebody like that DHing. I like that first plan better.
Tommy Littell still available?
Oh, God. Imagine if they brought him back.
You know that we talked mutiny and insurrections. There would be one, I promise. I do like the offseason you just laid out works. I think people would be happy with that. I really do. People would be happy with that, and I think the Mariners would be a better baseball team than they were in 2023 if that lineup would stay healthy. Now they got to go do it. They need to put the pedal to the metal and make it happen. And of course, if they mix in a 1-year, $65 million deal for Shohei Ohtani, I think that would work out too.
I won't complain.
So Dom Canzone's a final answer. I do have one last nugget on Dom. Did you realize he slugged like 900 against fastballs this year? Past year?
I know he hit fastballs well. I know he hit fastballs well.
He slugged 878 against fastballs.
I think there is a lot about Dom Canzone that is similar to Mitch. And Dom's not going to walk a lot. We know that. But you know what? He hits the ball really hard, and he's got power. If it can click for Dom Canzone, I am okay with that being the one question mark in the lineup. I am okay with the lineup looking very quickly to roll that potential lineup out there. Cal at catcher, Ty at first, Rojas and Urias platoon at second until Bliss gets up. JP at short, Paredes at third, Dom in left, Julio in center, Arozarena in right, and Soler DHing. Yep, I am more than okay with that lineup. If they go into opening day with that lineup, I will sit here and say they had a successful offseason. They are set up to win now. The offense is better. They strike out less. They have more power. Great.
All cheers to that.
Love
Before we get to our MLB wraparound, a word from our friends over at Simply Seattle, your go-to place for all your holiday shopping. Christmas is coming up, guys. Christmas is, we got 3 weeks? 3 weeks till Christmas? Right? Yeah, 3 weeks till Christmas. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. So you got to get your holiday shopping done. And I mean, like, pronto. So when you're listening to this, if you're still struggling for a gift idea and you have a friend, a family member, a colleague who loves Seattle sports or loves gear themed around the Pacific Northwest, go check out our friends at Simply Seattle and use our code Marine15 for 15% off your order. Lyle and I have already received our Simply Seattle gear for this winter. It's fantastic. The gear is top notch. You can't miss it. I got a Seahawks hat, a Seahawks throwbacks hat that you've seen here on this podcast. I wore it last week. And I also have this awesome Sonics crew neck. I'm not wearing it right now, but it is amazing. And I got that using our code Marine15 at simplyseattle.com. And you can go do that too. Huskies, Kraken, Mariners, Seahawks, Sonics, all that you could want. Go to simplyseattle.com. Use our code Marine15. Get all your holiday shopping done at Simply Seattle using our code Marine15 at checkout. Okay, let's get to our MLB wraparound. Up first on the MLB wraparound, the Juan Soto drama has finally concluded. The Padres ship him off to New York. He is now a Yankee, and the Yankees now possess, wow, what a 2-3 in that lineup they have now. I do not, I sympathize with pitchers who are going to have to go through a healthy Aaron Judge and a healthy Juan Soto in 2024.
They really did it, didn't they? This trade was in talks for weeks, then talks stalled, then even when it sounded like it was going to happen for a few hours, it got held up, but it happened. Juan Soto's a Yankee. He's going to be spending 2024 in the Bronx, and that Yankees team and that offense just got a whole lot more deadly. I'll say that much. Even with Alex Verdugo going over there too, which was in a different trade, that team's getting much, much better than it was a season ago.
Wasn't it funny to be online and watch the 24-hour window when it was just Verdugo and people were pissed?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They thought that meant the Juan Soto trade was done, and then you flip over a day later and arguably the best hitter in baseball. Now he's a New York Yankee. And
all of a sudden their outfield's pretty deep. So we have Verdugo, Soto, Judge, and Trent Grisham as well, who comes over in the Juan Soto deal. He'll mix in at center field for the Yankees. Not going to hit a whole lot, but he'll be in there. And I really, to be honest, looking at the package the Padres got in return, the centerpiece was Michael King. The Padres think he can start. He was a reliever last year for the Yankees. He's been a pretty good reliever for years and years. Looking at that package, yeah, I would have done it if I was the Mariners. For a like-minded package for Seattle, I would have sprung on that in a second. I would have had zero issue giving up what is required to go get Juan Soto.
I'm right there with you. What do we think that would have costed on the Mariners' end? I was trying to even ballpark a trade. Would we say it felt like Emerson Hancock, maybe a reliever, and a couple of mid-tier prospects?
Just about. Yeah. The real winner in all this are the Washington Nationals. I mean, highway robbery. The difference in package for Juan Soto in a year and a half is astronomical.
Now, my money is on that Juan Soto spends the rest of his career as a Yankee. I think when he hits free agency next year, even if there's some touring and some talks with other teams, I feel like in the end, he is going to be a Yankee and probably sign a huge contract there and spend the rest of his career there. That being said, could you imagine if he goes back to the Nationals next year when they're right on the brink of potentially getting really good with all these prospects? That would be the greatest fleece job in the history of the sport.
Could then AJ Preller finally be fired?
Ooh. Do you think Juan Soto's signing with the Nationals is what would do it? Like if Juan Soto re-signed with the Yankees, it'd be like, okay, AJ Preller, you can keep your job. If he goes and signs back with Washington, no, now you're fired.
I mean, what more is it going to take? How much more attrition can happen to the Padres for him to get fired? It's got to happen. It's got to happen soon. This man has been through more ups and downs than any GM ever. And now their roster is in a state of financial ruin. Their owner is dead. And, where's the security blanket for AJ? Not only are the money bags gone, they had to take out a loan to pay the roster this year, but they're not exactly getting any younger and not getting any more optimistic for the future.
Not at all. I don't know I don't know what is keeping him in that job. I wish I was in the Padres front office to be able to find out. But yeah, you've got to think time's ticking. And I feel like if they don't make the playoffs this year, I don't know how he sticks around. I just don't. I will say, though, for the Yankees side with Soto, let me propose a question to you. And I can't take credit for this. It was our friend Peter Apple, friend of the pod and co-founder of Just Baseball, who put this out there on Twitter yesterday. And I thought it was kind of an interesting debate, and I figured I'd bring it up today. Would you rather have the 1-2 of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto or Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman?
For just next year.
We can say going forward or next year, whichever you want.
Man. Healthy, I'd take the Yankees.
Okay, so here's what I said. Offensively, I'd take the Yankees. I would take Aaron Judge and Juan Soto as hitters. Overall, I might lean toward the Dodgers. And I say that because of the injuries, because Aaron Judge has had a hard time staying healthy, along with the fact that not only does Judge not always stay on the field, Juan Soto also plays atrocious defense. And then when you factor in Mookie might be the best athlete in the sport, aside from that guy Shohei, and then pairing him with Freddie Freeman, I think I might take the Dodgers. The overall package of the Dodgers, I like a little bit better because of Mookie's defense, because those guys are almost always on the field. But if it's just offense, I would take the Yankees.
If Juan Soto signs an extension with the Yankees, I mean, we're going to be talking about two teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees, who pulled off absolute heists to grab marquee players on the block with few to 1 year of control left. Did Mookie only have 1 year left?
1 year?
Do you remember? Yeah, it was one. It was okay. So 1 year left of control to then sign them to monumental contracts after and potentially aging gratefully. This is a piece of advice to all general managers and owners in Major League Baseball. If there is a MVP caliber player who you think would be willing to sign an extension with your franchise, and he's out there for any sort of price, trade for him and don't think twice.
It can cost your best prospects for all you care. If you're getting an MVP who's already an MVP and then he's going to sign an extension, what are you waiting for?
It might not even cost your best prospects. I mean, Alex Verdugo is now a Yankee. He was the marquee one of the Mookie trade.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. It feels like at some point in time, if Soto stays there, maybe we're finally set up for a Yankees-Dodgers World Series at some point. Maybe we're finally going to get it if that Yankees rotation can stay healthy and if Carlos Rodon can stay healthy.
That's a big if.
Big if. Not speaking of ifs anymore, I should say. This is now sealed. Eduardo Rodriguez. He is now an Arizona Diamondback. He's got a 4-year contract under his belt that he signed for $80 million, and that Diamondbacks rotation, that's getting pretty interesting.
Teams that lost their TV deal can spend money? Really?
Who would have thought? The Diamondbacks did lose their TV deal to Bally, for those who don't get that reference. So yes, they can.
Yeah, they did. And they only get 80% of their TV deal through Major League Baseball. And yet, $80 million? And if they go out and sign someone else, they'll be pushing near a record payroll for their franchise? Interesting. I didn't know teams are allowed to do that. Anyways, yeah, this rotation's amazing. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, who really burst onto the scene in the playoffs. He's been a veteran for a while, but really shined in October. And then Eduardo Rodriguez, who arguably had the best season of his career this past year, 3.30 ERA and a FIP just above that at 3.66 and 152 2/3. Going to go to more of a hitting environment in Arizona opposed to Detroit. But, I mean, he did suffer an injury in the middle of the season for the Tigers that kind of hampered him. But he was getting off to an amazing start. And I think the Diamondbacks are really buying into that Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be pitching at the top of his game, and they don't have him under contract for that long. So they don't have to worry about paying him, Garrett at the end of Garrett Cole's contract, for example. No, like Erod will be signed for the prime of his career. He's 30 right now. So he'll be pitching at the best of his game while he is an Arizona Diamondback. And the Diamondbacks are essentially fortifying a strength of their team to complement the young hitting core they have as well.
I'm going to throw Brandon Pfaadt into that rotation too, who I know if you just look at his big league stats for the regular season, that is, yeah, it wasn't that impressive for his rookie year, but similar to what you're talking about with Merrill Kelly, look at what he did in October, and he was a pretty high prospect. We saw the upside that Brandon Pfaadt had through the Diamondbacks playoff run. And I think he's going to be the number 4 guy in that rotation next year. And I think he's going to take a big step and be pretty damn good. So that Diamondbacks rotation all of a sudden with those 4 looks really good. And another thing with Eduardo Rodriguez, when he's healthy, he's been pretty consistently a 3 to 4 WAR pitcher who keeps his teams in games, who puts up ERAs in the 3s, who puts up consistently good year after year. And to only cost $20 million, it's not that much. For a starting pitcher on the free agent market who is pretty sought after, it's not that much money.
No, it's really not. So they now have, all these guys pitch at the top of their game, they have one of the best rotations in the National League. At least to give them a chance to compete with the Dodgers eventually. We'll have to see, but what?
Speaking of the Dodgers, Eduardo Rodriguez is getting booed when he goes to Dodger Stadium now.
Yeah,
a lot.
He is the only player ever to be a Detroit Tiger and decide, I would rather not play for this version of the LA Dodgers. Just one of the most bizarre decisions ever.
Bizarre, but if you watch Dodgers fans' reactions to it, you kind of got to chuckle. And now they're going to get their chance to boo him.
Yeah, but he'll boo and be like, yep. Come at me. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, and if you're listening to this and you don't know what I'm doing right now, then that's your sign to go subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch. Please go watch. Okay, the final thing, Lyle, on our MLB Wraparound. This regards the Mariners as well. Candelario signing a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Cincinnati Reds. I think the Reds have too many infielders now, Lyle.
You smell a trade coming?
I don't know. They have six infielders for 5 infielders for 3 spots. I smell an issue.
Spencer Steer,
Yep.
Ellie, Joelvi Marte, Jonathan India, Jamer, and Matt McLean.
Oh crap! 6, 6 for 3 spots.
Yeah, no, you said 6.
I said 6 at first, then I went down to 5. I left McLean out of my notes accidentally.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to play all those guys. Somebody's probably going to get traded. It feels like it's going to be India from all the rumors, as we've talked about on this podcast.
Steer clear.
I hope it's not here because I don't buy that profile one bit. So, yeah. Now, Jamer Candelario himself just relates to the Mariners a little bit because some people suspected that when they traded Gino away, they thought maybe the fit would be Candelario. It's not the case. And for 3 years, $45 million, that's not a terrible contract. That feels like one the Mariners could have given out. They decided not to do it, and they still have a third base hole to fill. But Jamer, he's going to a hitter-friendly ballpark. He's going to a team that's going to compete. He's going to a core of young players that's really fun, an infield that's going to be good. It makes some sense for him.
Remember how we were talking about spending money? We talked a lot about spending money on this podcast. The Cincinnati Reds have spent $87 million this offseason.
The Cincinnati Reds, the same team that just a season ago, the beginning of 2022, told your fans, where are you going to go? You have to stay and watch the Reds. There's nobody else for you to go watch. That team is now spending money.
Interesting.
But the team that has Julio Rodriguez on it, no, they can't spend money.
Has Jerry Dipoto ever signed a hitter to a 3-year, $45 million contract? No. No, he has not.
Has he ever signed a hitter to a 2-year contract?
He has not signed a hitter above $7,001,001. Period.
And he has not signed any of them for more than 1 year.
Correct.
Man. Well, congrats to Jamer. He got his money. He's put up 3 of the last 4 years. He's been really good, and he's probably going to stay pretty consistent in Cincinnati. All right. That's our wraparound. Let's get to Speak Your Mind. Well, we've had a lot to talk about this week, but is there anything else that's on your mind that you'd like to talk about?
I just have one question, Lyle, that we can debate. Did the College Football Playoff Committee get it right?
If you wanted the best 2 games, yes. If you want it based off what the criteria is supposed to be, no. That's my 2 cents.
I'm just going to say I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm not. This is what you get when you have a playoff that is owned by a television network and conferences. Every other NCAA championship is run, and all the rights are run through the NCAA. The one sport that is not is college football. So when you let ESPN form a committee, own the playoff, own the bowl games, this is what you're going to get. This is what happens. Do you think ESPN, after watching that national championship last year when they sold all that advertising and watched TCU just get shit pumped? I don't know how else to describe that. Shit pumped, 65-7 to Georgia, and said, yeah, we can't let this happen ever again. We cannot let a team that we know has no shot into this playoff. And there might be some merit to that. There might be absolute reason to be frustrated with that. 100%. That's not how playoff works. It doesn't matter like perception. It doesn't matter recruiting rankings. It matters what you do on the field. However, this is college football. In case you didn't notice, college football isn't exactly logical. It never has been logical. I mean, shit. They used to decide the national champion after bowl season. The AP used to sit there and decide, who's going to be the national champion this year? Oh, okay, we'll decide on you. You won the national champion this year. That's how stupid the sport is and how illogical it is. So I don't know how we can expect this season, in the final year of the 14 playoff, that everyone's just up in arms about and pissed off at the decision it made. Florida State was mad, sure. But I can't say as a college football fan like I'm that sad to see it. I mean, I think we're going to get 2 great games on New Year's Day, and that's what ESPN wants, and that's what they've decided upon.
I just realized we should probably give a little bit of an explanation in case there's anybody out there listening that does not know what's going on. The college football playoff was decided. The 4 teams are going to be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. It's in that order 1 through 4. Florida State went 13-0 and were left out, and a big reason for that is they lost their starting quarterback a couple weeks ago to a season-ending injury. Florida State fans, for obvious reason, are furious. They went undefeated and missed the playoff. That's never happened. So that's what we're sitting here talking about. So I'm with you. Yes, college football is not, it's not a normal sport. Like in most sports, it's like, here's what you do, you get into the playoff. College football is totally subjective with its playoff. You can argue college basketball is a little bit like that too, or some of the other college sports where there is a selection committee and they pick the team, but there's enough teams in those other sports, like men's and women's basketball, like some of the others, where if you miss out, it's probably on you. Because if you miss out, there's something you didn't do in your season and you lost too many games. In college football, you can go undefeated and miss the playoff because it's 4 teams. So yes, if it was about the criteria that they usually use, Florida State would be in. That's what they should have done. But if we're talking about picking the 4 quote-unquote best teams and getting the 2 best games in the semifinal and then a good national title game, they got this right. It's going to be way more fun to see Alabama than Florida State.
Does ESPN understand the ramifications of their decision? You know why I say that? What is Florida State going to do now that they've been left out? What are the next 3 years for Florida State going to look like now that they have been told their league was not good enough?
I don't know. What do you think they're going to do?
Leave. They are going to do whatever is possible to get out of their agreement with the ACC, and they're either going to go to the Big Ten or they're going to go to the SEC. They know they're good enough. They know they draw enough TV eyeballs. And this decision made by the committee, I think, just finalized it. The ACC will, in its current form, will probably dissolve because of this decision. I'm like, you think I'm crazy? Like, no, I guarantee you this is it. Florida State and Clemson have been looking for a reason to leave the ACC forever. The ACC, by the way, if you're not up to date on college football television contracts, signed one of the worst deals ever. In 2016, they wanted security. They signed a 20-year grant of rights with ESPN. Your grant of rights, by the way, is saying that the only way you can make television revenue is by being in this league. Or the league gets all your television revenue and distributes it back to you. That's what it means. So the ACC gets about $30 million a year. However, the SEC and the Big Ten now will be approaching $100 million a year once their new deals kick in starting next season. And Florida State's like, we know our brand's good enough. We need more of that. So now that not only has the television money been reflected back upon them and their league and the deteriorating performance, but now the committee has also said the teams in your league are not good enough. The perception of your league is not good enough overall. Because if Florida State went 13-0 in the SEC and won the SEC without their starting quarterback, Lau, are they in the playoff?
Oh, they're in the playoff.
Bingo. So Florida State realizes if we want to have a successful future in college football or however this sport looks in the future, we got to leave this league. And it's starting now. I guarantee you they got lawyers going. They're trying to find any way possible to get out of that grant of rights and leave to a bigger conference where they know if they go undefeated in that conference, they're into the playoff and they're guaranteed money. Now, does ESPN understand the consequences? Well, if Florida State goes to the SEC, then ESPN's like, oh, great. We just got Florida State in the SEC. That's perfect. Another marquee brand under our umbrella. What if Florida State goes to the Big Ten? ESPN doesn't get any of that. They lose all of that, and then they lose the ACC. Now, who knows what the rest of the shuffling around would be? I think Oregon State and Washington State would be jumping back into the discussion then with the members of the ACC that have now disbanded. But that's for a conversation later down the line. But I just hope ESPN understands what they did with the decision and all the ramifications that will happen because of it.
You know how else this could have been avoided? To stay on this topic, and now this will be my speak your mind. Should have had a 12-team playoff this year. Yep. Because then Florida State's in.
Sure. Do you know what else would have solved this issue, Lau? If we had the BCS. If the BCS still existed, would have been the easiest decision ever. Michigan 1, Washington 2, national championship in the Rose Bowl. Boom. Perfect. No arguments. No arguments from anyone. It would have been the easiest decision ever. Let the computer pick it. Would have been the easiest decision ever. But instead, because we had this 4-team playoff and 5 power leagues, yeah, you're asking for it.
Well, that's no fun. 2 teams in 1 national title game. What did I say the last time we talked about this? I want more meaningful games. So that would be it. And then Alabama's still in, then Georgia's still in, then Texas is still in. Nobody's complaining. You're in. And again, similar to the college basketball thing, if you're going to be mad about, who's 12, who's 13, who's 14, that gets to the point where you didn't do enough in your season. This was in your control and you lost.
I don't want to just rehash this argument because we've already argued about this.
I know.
But I will say I did really enjoy Conference Championship weekend, and I would be very disappointed that it really wouldn't mean anything for any of the teams playing in it if that was the case. It would. The SEC Championship, by the way, tickets were going for what, $550 at cheapest? What the game would be meaningless. They could have played all their backups and both made the playoff. Oregon and Washington could have done the exact same thing. Played all their backups and made the championship. Texas could have done the same thing. They could have lost a game and they would have made it as well. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? Michigan could do the same thing. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
I did very much enjoy conference championship week. It was a bunch of great games. That being said, you would get a lot more games that would still matter if you did the expanded playoff. Guess what? Like, there's a week in the NFL where most of the backups play. It's like the last week of the season, so it's not that different.
It's completely different seasons.
They are.
We're talking about conference championship weekend.
Well, that's true. That part, yes.
That is supposed to mean the most.
Yeah, but conferences are going away at this point. Like, it's so different now. Like, I feel like we might be getting to the point where conference championships aren't even really a thing. It'll be a 12-team playoff. It'll be these new conferences, and then it's like the NFL. It's like the final week. All right, guys, sit.
If I wanted to watch the NFL, I would watch the NFL.
Well, that's out of my control. I am simply a TV watcher, and I would like to watch meaningful games. I know. We're going to have to agree to disagree on this because we're on different ends of the spectrum on this argument. But that's okay. I did like what you had to say about Florida State. I hadn't really thought about it that much, but that is a good point, that maybe we're going to see a changing of the guard. It would make a lot of sense. I'm sure we'll be talking about the playoff in a couple weeks, so I'm sure when those games play themselves out, you'll hear us talking about it. And I'm looking forward to it. All right. I think that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so wherever you find your audio podcasts. If you do that, make sure to download, give us a 5-star review, and follow the show. Those reviews and downloads help us out a ton. You know what else helps out a bunch? If you watch on YouTube, full video podcast is there. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.